We've got several different stories to cover, guys, from many different outlets. It's time for another episode of the World's Newsround, where we cover stories from outside the UK. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of the World's Newsround. 20 episodes in, by the way, which is very, very nice. Where we cover several different stories from different media outlets covering newses from outside of the UK. And we start this one here from Al Jazeera with the headline of Armenia and Azerbaijan agree on historic returns of villages. Azerbaijan had demanded the return of 4 villages as a condition for peace deal after decades of conflict. Now, we here on this channel, for those who aren't aware, we've covered several short stories between the conflict, and as well a few videos on covered it here on this news round, and also on Snowflake Corner as well, as well as 1 or 2 stories on Rumble as well, talking about how this conflict has been going on. And when the conflict, one of the things that were always in favour of Armenia was their support of Russia. They do not have that support anymore, simply because Russia is preoccupied now, and they're obviously, with what's happened with the war in Ukraine, and looking to try and gain influence and whatnot in Europe, has kind of turned itself away from Armenia. And the problem is, Armenia had to make concessions of some sort because of the situation they are in, and they are slowly moved. They have been, over the past year or so now, they have been slowly turning away from relying on Russia as its ally and its supporter, and is now looking to go towards more European. We know that they've been having discussions with the EU to have some kind of closer agreements towards them. We know they've been trying to cozy up to America as well, and this is to ensure their own survival, because there's always that fear of Azerbaijan perhaps declaring war on them, simply because of disputed territory. There is a lot of history between these two, and it's not a nice history at all. But despite everything that's happened between these two nations, it is good to see that they are having concrete discussions about wanting to try to bury the hatchet, sort of thing, agree to sort out these last few things so both nations can kind of move on from this, because both nations do want to move on from this conflict. Unlike some other nations some other nations across the world, despite what we may not understand, or sometimes even may not know the history behind these two nations, what we do know is that those who are in power there, they know that it's better to try to secure some kind of peace instead of just going into war as well. Now these villages have been a very we covered it not too long ago about these villages. The people in those villages really have made it clear that they did not, as far as I was aware, and I'm not sure if these are the same ones, but there was a lot of villages that were talked of disputes and whatnot. I remember seeing many people were basically saying that they would stand up and they would fight, not to give up their villages. So this is this may not be a simple case of just moving the people of Armenia out of these villages and giving them to Azerbaijan. It may not be so simple as that. It might be a bit more complicated than that, if I'm honest. So Armenia has agreed to return several villages to Azerbaijan in what both countries say is an important milestone as they edge towards a peace deal after fighting 2 wars since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Azerbaijani's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Akina Haski posted on the social media platform X on Friday that Armenia would return 4 villages near the country's shared border that had been under occupation since the early 1990s. He called it a long-awaited historic event. In Armenia's the state news agency quoted the Prime Minister Nikol Proskin's office as saying, in this process, the Republic of Armenia receives its reduction in risk associated with the border's delimitation and security. He said that the handover in practice was involved 2.5 villages because Azerbaijan already partially controlled the settlements involved, but it added that the demarcation of the border was a significant event. The settlements are deserted. Okay, so these ones are deserted, but are strategically important because they are close to Armenia's main highway, north towards the border with Georgia. Much of Armenia's trade travels on this road, and it goes to the pipeline through which it receives gas from Russia. The agreement was reached at a meeting on the two countries' borders, chaired by the deputy prime ministers, so both of them. So you can see here on this little, so here it's been tweeted by, you can see on the map there, we're talking about the villages there. So you can see the 4 there villages there. I know you can't see the wording from there, but you can see not too far away from the borders there about how difficult that is to kind of like gauge there. So it looks like 4 of those villages are going to be handed in. You have to remember that also the mountain is a mountainous region as well and whatnot. So you have to take that into account. But there is obviously the main, like they said, the main road obviously is a very important strategic road for Armenia. But also Armenia wants to keep things calm as well. According to a written statement by Azerbaijan, one of the issues the commissioners reached agreement was on determining the border alongside Azerbaijan's Gahina province. Turkish state-run Anadolu news agency reported that the line will pass through the villages of Baskiz, that's under Armenia, Baskiz Alman, Azerbaijan, Voska, that's Armenia's, Aska, Ebokreska, Azerbaijan's, Krosses, which is Kres, Armenia's, Hemeriki, Azerbaijan's, and Berkatisha's, Amarina, and Kaski's, Azerbaijan. So you can see here, you can just tell from this just how many like villages closely tied to each other with owned by the two sides. This means Armenia will return to Azerbaijan the villages of Bangis Aram, Aski, Kreski, Hemeriski, and Kalaliski. If I mispronounce any of the names, I apologize. All of which it occupied during the first Kabash War of the 1998 and 1994 Anadolu Steppe. Azerbaijan has been demanding the returning of the villages as a condition for a peace deal after more than 3 decades of conflict, mostly central on the region of Nagorno-Karabakh. Momentum shifted dramatically in favour of Azerbaijan in September when its forces staged a lightning offensive to regain control of it, where ethnic Armenians had enjoyed a de facto independence since the mid-1990s. Virtually the entire population of 100,000 people fled to Armenia within days. Russia had posted peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh after the last major war between Armenia and Azerbaijan in 2020. But it said this week it had to begin withdrawing them. Azerbaijani President Alaa Ali is due to meet the Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday. So they've already had a discussion. I don't know if it's next Monday or this Monday, if I'm honest, but there's obviously discussions there. Russia, distracted by its war in Ukraine, risks losing confidence in the Caucasus region, which sees it as a historical sphere of influence. The United States and the European Union have also been pressing the two sides to reach a peace deal. Yeah. So, and we don't want you don't want to start up the fires again. No, nobody wants the fires to start up at all, guys. I think it's high time everyone tries to find the resolution to this, and I'm sure both sides don't want to continue this on. They really don't. I know Armenia doesn't want to give up ground because they've already given up some already, but they don't want to. They don't want this. They don't want this conflict. And if I'm honest, I don't think Azerbaijan generally wants this. They just want what was right, what they claim was rightfully theirs, based on the history. And let's hope more negotiations continue and gets that one step closer to a peace deal that will end any kind of conflict, and both sides may be able to move on from all of this. I really hope so, guys. I really hope so. I think it's really, really important that this is ironed out and done as soon as possible for the benefit of both nations as well. So the next one I've got for you guys is in America. This one is from the Associated Press. The headline is Trump's $175 million bond in New York civil fraud judgment case is settled with cash promise. So, yeah, I don't know where he got the money. Where he's going to get I don't know where he's getting the cash from. He's clearly been raised it. he's been crowdfunded it, or people have helped give it to him or something. Because like money is like he doesn't have money himself, so clearly someone is helping him with money. There's absolutely no question someone's helping him with money, because he did not have the money here for this bond. And somehow it's been settled. And I remember in the build up to this, it was like, man, how's he going to pay for this? How's he going to deal with this? And somehow it's like pull a rabbit out of a hat. Literally has with this one, guys. I know we obviously got the other trial that's going, and with the other trial that's taking place right now as well. But this one here, I honestly wasn't sure how he was going to deal with this, because if he hadn't, he would have had his assets in New York taken from him. But he's managed to get a cash promise. So let's read a bit into this, guys. So the New York State lawyers and an attorney for the former President Donald Trump settled their differences on Monday over a $175 million bond that Trump posted to block a large civil fraud judgment while he pursues appeals. The agreement cut short a potential long-day court hearing in Manhattan that was due to feature witnesses. As part of the deal struck by the 20-minute recess, lawyers for Trump and Knight, specifically insurance company, agreed to keep the $175 million in a cash account that will gain interest but face no downside risk. The account has so far grown over $700,000. The bond stops the state from potentially seizing Trump's assets to satisfy the more than $454 million that he owes after losing a court case brought by the Democratic Attorney General. She had alleged that Trump, along with his companies and key executives, defrauded banksters and insurers by lying about his wealth. The ex-president and presumably Republican nominee denies the claims and is appealing the judgment. Judge Arthur Engron, who in February issued a huge judgment after concluding that Trump and others had deceived banks and insurers by exaggerating his wealth on financial statements, presided over Monday's hearing and at times were caught in testy exchange with Trump's attorney, Christopher Krice. Erdogan challenged Krice with examples of how the money Trump had posted might not be available for collection if the judgment was upheld, leading Krice to respond in one instance that the judge's hypothetical is wildly speculative. Not ideal. That's a point there to make. In another point, Kriske expressed frustration with the office of the New York Attorney General Leroy James, saying, "It appears that no matter what we do, they're going to find fault with it." But Andrew Amar, an attorney for New York State, proposed settlement terms soon after he began speaking at the hearing. He said the state wanted extra assurances because Trump had raised money with the help of a relatively small out-of-state insurance company. As part of the deal, Knight Specialty Insurance at Wilmington, a Delaware-based part of the Los Angeles-based Knight Insurance Group, will have exclusive control of the $175 million and will submit the jurisdiction of the New York State Court while agreeing not to move the money into mutual funds or other financial instruments. Speaking to reporters in the hallway outside Trump's separate criminal hush money trial, his attorney Alina Habba said Erdogan does not even understand basic principles of finance. We came to an agreement that everything would be the same, she said. We would modify terms and that would be it. Trump also railed against Erdogan, accusing him of not understanding the case. He challenged the bonding company that maybe the bonding company was no good. Well, they're good. They also have $175 million of collateral, my collateral, he said. Yeah, so he's managed to weasel his way out of this somehow, which is quite... You kind of wanted him kind of... You would have loved to have seen his assets be taken, but he's found a way out of this. So... Yeah, he's not going to have his stuff it looks like he's not going to have his stuff seized. That's what people were expecting, which is, to be honest, I don't like the man because of things that he's said and done, his actions in the past. But I don't wish ill-tempted fate on anyone, even someone like Trump, for all the faults and whatnots that the man has, guys. It's just not. Just not worth the issue over it. Just so you guys know, Pingu is there. You can see Pingu just hiding behind the orb and the lava lamp there. Ollie's up there just chilling handy. lava lamp hasn't formed yet, so hopefully it will form by the time before the end of the show, guys. So if you want to support Ollie, Pingu, and myself here on the channel Reganelite, you can do so by hitting that like button right now, sharing this across social media, and subscribing, because it really does help support us and the work that we do here. Thank you guys so much if you do that. I've done that already. The next one I got for you guys is for Middle Eastern Eye. Now it is still a UK. While we do cover essentially what we do is cover news outside the UK, but I do think this is an interesting one, which is why I've highlighted it, because it is also one regarding from the UK. So a Labour peer has called for an inquiry into the Ministry of Defence over Saudi bribe allegations. So Peter Hound said the government auditors must investigate claims that the MOD approved bribes to Saudi officials to secure arms deals. So what's this about? This is about us supplying weapons and arms to Saudi Arabia, basically. And perhaps there were bribes, taking place. And this is what the Labour peer is stated, which is quite a big accusation to make. But let's read a little bit into it before we jump to any conclusions here. So Labour peer Peter Hahn has called for a timely and targeted investigation into alleged Ministry of Defence involvement in bribes paid to senior Saudi Arabia officials. 2 men were acquitted in March of paying 7- and 8-figure bribes to high-ranking Saudi officials after their lawyers argued that the British government had long known about and authorised the payments to secure huge arms deals known as SATCOM. Allegedly, the £10 million was paid to the head of the Saudi Arabian National Guard, Prince Mahmoud bin Al-Hamma, to secure a contract for military communication networks as part of the deal. The internal MOD documents disclosed at the trial reveals a slew of other undisclosed financial arrangements and arms deals, including the MOD's involvement in multi-million-pound payments to the Prince Badr bin Sultan as part of the Al Yamiyah fighter jet deal. In a letter to the National Audit Office, Hahn urged government auditors to rigorously review government's department financial practices so that lessons can be learnt both to protect the public taxpayer money in the defence sector and to ensure that government departments are rigorously reviewed for how they handle contract arrangements and funds on government-to-government contracts. So yeah, basically we're bribing Saudi officials from what's the allegation that's coming up here. Excuse me. Sorry, apologies. But yeah, the time of this recording is like 8 a.m. on the 23rd of April, just in case people reference. This is quite we already have quite a lot going on already. But does it really surprise you when we talk about what's going on in UK politics? Does it really surprise you that the government are kind of turned a blind eye to something like this? I mean, I know to some people it's probably not the biggest of stories, considering other things that are going on. But it's still quite a concern, to say the least. That is for sure. I think if it was a bit more public, if it wasn't so much paying money under the table, whatnot, if there was actually, I don't think it would there'd be more concern about this, but it's because everything's all hush, hush, quiet, quiet, don't tell anyone about it. I mean, we know we're supplying Israel as well. It is imperative that the National Audit Office conduct a timely, targeted investigation to establish the reports on the facts and for parliamentarians and the public to understand the MOD's role in this national scandal and any ongoing corruption risks, he added. Prince Mudab, a son of the late King Abdullah, was stripped of his ministerial portfolio and arrested in November 2017 as part of an obscene crackdown on royal corruption by the Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He secured his freedom after reportedly paying the Saudi authorities with a settlement worth billions of dollars. Yeah, this one is interesting to say the least. It's clearly there's clearly something amiss here. I know there's not much to go along with that story, but I do think it's one an interesting one to say the least. And I think that we should be looking into it in some way, shape, or form. We really should. But whether we actually will or not, I don't know. But we will have to wait and see, guys, on that one. So just because of running through these quite a lot faster than I expected, we're gonna I'll do one more story before we break up with a funny video to kind of break the ice a little bit here on World Newsround. This one is very, very troubling to say the least, guys, from African news. Every now and then you hear some of these stories, and it's really, really scary to say the least for people in certain parts of in certain countries on the continent. The headline is in Mali, of more than 110 civilians have been kidnapped by suspected jihadists. When you hear any kind of stories about any kind of kidnapping, it's already horrible. But we're talking about more than 100 people have disappeared. That's very scary, and hopefully, at the time of this recording, they will be found and they're safe. My heart goes out to anyone who have any connections to any of these people who have been kidnapped, and I generally hope that nothing happens to them and they're returned home safely as quickly as possible. It's very scary. Local groups and officials in Mali are calling for the release of more than 110 people kidnapped by suspected jihadists some 6 days ago. This was 6 days ago. They told AFP news agency that 3 buses carrying the civilians were stopped by a group of men in the centre of the country and were forced to head towards a forest between Bahia and Bankas. Oh my God. An elected official from Bahia, who asked to remain anonymous for security reasons, said the buses and passengers are still being held captive. Since 2012, Mali has been plagued by fighting between different factions affiliated to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State group, as well as self-declared self-defense forces and bandits. The worsening security situation has been compounded by humanitarian and political crises. The violence spilled over into neighbouring Bahia Fusco and Niger, with all 3 countries seeing military regimes seize power in recent years. Yeah, so that's that. Unfortunately, that's all the news I've got on that, unfortunately. But it's been more than 6 days as well, which is really, really, really bad. I hate hearing stories like that, guys. I really do. It's because they don't want the people on those buses. They don't want no part of any of this. They just want to go from A to B. They just want to live their lives, and people are just plucking them out of their lives for briberies and worse. And it's really horrible. It's a really horrible story, guys. And hopefully that they will be found soon is what I hope. I really do hope they do get found soon. I know it's been 6 days, and I just those kind of stories, they're really downfall. They're here to say the least, but cross fingers. I will try to keep an eye out to hopefully they will be found. Sometimes there are some of these cases where these happen in Africa, and sometimes it could take months before they are returned. Which is not good at all, guys. So, guys, we're going to take a little break things up a little bit for you guys here. This funny video, kind of just to break the ice a little bit. It's a bit of a weird transition, to be honest, guys. But I hope if you guys like football, you'll probably like this one. That is for sure. From Foil in Arms, the YouTube channel, guys. Normally I use Foil in Arms for a funny video for the World News, but I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one is called "A Footballer Gets a Real Job."
So what's the salary?
It's 29,000.
So what's that? 1.4 mil a year? Not bad.
No, it's 29,000 a year.
What? I thought it was per week.
Why would it be 29,000 a week? Why do you want to work for this company?
It's always been a dream of mine to work for Dennehy's Electrical Wholesalers.
Really?
To don the famous gold shirt and walking out on that shop floor would be one of the greatest honours of my life.
Okay. And you think you're suited to the job? Or?
You pick me, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give it my all for 90 minutes.
It's a 7.5 hour shift.
What? Well, at the end of the day, I'm just here to give it 110%.
What would you say is your greatest strength?
Oh yeah, probably my work rate.
Weakness?
Me ankles.
Ankles. Do you have a full driver's license?
No, but I can park a bus.
Okay, that won't be necessary. I noticed under references you haven't provided a single referee.
Oh no, they all hated me.
Okay,
Look, I just want to come in here, work hard, and at the end of the day, hit the showers with the rest of the team.
but there's no communal showering in this business. Okay, look, that's everything out of my end. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, what time does work start at?
It's at 9 a.m. sharp, and I should tell you that persistent lateness may incur penalties.
Oh, penalties.
But
Oh, I don't do penalties, but
it's all here in the contract. So,
Right, just look at that. Right,
sorry, who are you?
I'm his agent, right? And this is not going to do at all, son, right? Okay? I've got 4 different electrical wholesalers all blowing up my phone looking for this guy. He's in demand, yeah?
What?
I've got B&Q on the phone right now and they're offering 37k.
that's a year.
What?
Not a week, a year.
Is that a year or a week? Oh, you're having a laugh. Having a laugh.
Okay, well, welcome aboard. Here's your name badge.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Name badge, right.
No, leave it. It goes on your front.
If you know football football here in the UK, you will get the references there. But it's fun. It's a funny one, relying on their agents and whatnot. Yeah, so some footballers are not as smart as they think they are, guys. But make sure you check out the link in the description. The footballer gets a real job under the YouTube channel, Foreign Arms. All credit goes to them, guys. They do some really, really top stuff. So 1, 2, 4. Just before we just want to make sure I've got the next one set up for you guys, because that one's an interesting one. There's a certain YouTube member who will definitely be interested in this story, that is for sure. But before I just go to it, I just want to say, guys, if you're not already a YouTube member, consider becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Being a member really does make a difference, and it supports me, and it also supports these two here at the back. Pingu, who's hiding behind the lava lamp and the orb there, and Ollie also there as well. So any kind of financial support really does make a difference to the work that I do here on this channel, guys. Excuse me. So any of that support is greatly appreciated. So do feel free to, if you can, any kind of super chats and whatnot. So they really do help business. But becoming a YouTube member, yeah, by doing so, gifting a member or becoming a member, you get access to custom emojis as well. So you get, and soon there will be a Pingu one I'll be adding very, very soon of him. Don't you worry, he will be an emoji at some point. I'm just, it's on my to-do jobs list. I can assure you, Pingu is coming. And also, being a member, you'll get access to exclusive community posts as well, members posts. So I'll have some special posts here for you guys as well. And also, if you are a $2.99 member, you also get early access to the content. So once content I've made and I uploaded it onto YouTube, I just need to give it an hour or so for monetization, so there's no issues. And then it'll be available for you guys before it comes out publicly as well. So you get access to early access there. Other ways, if you want to financially support me, is by buying me a coffee. Link is in the description as well. Or you can also join me on Patreon for exclusive content there as well. Yes, there's lots of content on Patreon as well. And I actually get a bigger cut from Patreon as well. But you could also join it for free as well. And by joining it for free, you also get access to exclusive content on there as well. So simply, if you have already a Patreon account, you can simply just click the follow button and follow me on Patreon, and you get access to additional content on there as well. I drop 3 additional videos a week on there as well. And also, I also do exclusive content on Rumble as well, covering world news like we've been covering here as well. So you can also check that out. That's free to watch as well. So thank you all so much who have financially contributed towards the work that we do here on the YouTube channel by myself, Pingu, and Ollie. It is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much if you have in any way, shape or form. So this next one, like I said, is from is one who lives in the country and has been keeping an eye on these things. So let's talk about Indonesia. So this one dropped from CNA. This is Central News Asia. This is one I've becoming as news an outlet I've been using quite a lot when it comes to stories and news is coming out of Asia. And the headline here is obviously Indonesia's top court dismisses appeals by the presidential rival Ganjar against against Prabowo's election win. No losing candidate in the country's history has successfully appealed in the Constitutional Court thus far. So basically what was happening here was they were trying to basically those who lost the election basically trying to appeal, saying that there was some kind of issues, or they're trying to claim that some kind of election rigging, or just tried to make some kind of claim that the election was not fair, or there was some faults or whatever counting. And this is the top court in the country is basically thrown this out and basically said no, this is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong here. You're talking out your backside. This let's move on, sort of thing. So, sorry, 1 second. Sometimes I just have struggle sometimes swallowing and whatnot. Apologies. So, because this now this is kind of dead and buried, now they can actually celebrate and say, yep, this is finally over. We can move on now from this and actually, form in our government and start getting things done in the country. Indonesia has a massive population, huge population. And it is a growing economy, and is out without a doubt. With a mass population, if you can get the majority of people working, you can really grow the economy if done right. Obviously, when you have a huge population, obviously there's a lot of demands, obviously, for that as well. So there's a lot of work to be done. That is for sure. So let's read a bit into this, guys. So Indonesia's Constitutional Court has rejected lawsuits filed by presidential candidates Aris Baswan and Ganjar Prabowo, who lost in February's presidential election against Defense Minister Prabowo Santiago. I mispronounced names, I apologise. During a marathon court session in Jakarta on Monday, April the 22nd, the court ruled in favour of completely rejecting the appeal, seeking a rerun of the presidential elections in a 5-3 decision. The election ruling, which cannot be appealed against and was the last legal resource for both Mr. Angs and Mr. Ganjar, means that the result of the presidential poll will be upheld, clearing Mr. Prabowo's path to becoming the country's next president. The official results released by the Electoral Commission on March the 20th showed Mr. Prabowo won a landslide victory of 58.9% of the vote, compared to Anis 24.5% and Mr. Ganjar 16.47%. Well, you can clearly see, guys. You could clearly see from the percentage point of view that they were in favour of him and the other two candidates. So just, it comes across to me as sour grapes, really, on this. In their petitions to the Constitutional Court, Mr. Angus and Mr. Ganjar claimed that the poll was marred by systematic fraud and argued that government institutions, regional leaders, and state-sponsored social assistance programs have been misused by the outgoing President Joko Widodo to sway the votes in favour of Mr. Prabowo. And the judges ruled there was no evidence to support these allegations. That was exactly what I was about to say. I was going to say, do you have evidence to support these claims? Unless you have evidence to support these claims, it's just dead air as far as I was concerned. The plaintiff petition has no legal basis in its entirety, said the Chief Justice Sudarrogo. Judge Eniro and Sani stated that the court does not see any casualty between the distribution of social assistance and the increase in votes for any candidate. The petition has also sought to disqualify Mr. Prabowo and his vice presidential running mate, Mr. Gabriel Abaha Raska, who is the president's eldest son, on grounds of ethical violations. Mr. Gabriel's candidacy was made possible by a controversial ruling from the top court presided over by his uncle, the former Chief Justice Aswan Usman. Professor Anwar was barred from participating in the presidential election lawsuits for breaching the judge's code of ethics. Despite the ethical breaches, the judges said there was no evidence of nepotism and the presidential interference regarding that decision. Mr. Anders, the former governor of Jakarta, informed the media at the courthouse that he would issue an official statement later in the evening in response to the ruling. Mr. Ganjar and his running mate, Mr. Mulford, have conceded defeat and accept the court's ruling. So they've accepted it because they can't really get anywhere else now. Because, like you said like it says, there's no appeal. So that's it. The ruling party, PDIP's presidential nominee, congratulated Mr. Prabowo. A few metres outside the Constitutional Court, hundreds of protesters demanded that Jallo be tried and Paulo Graham be disqualified. God willing, the truth and justice one will prevail, said one of the protesters. They also chanted, God is great. Mr. Nicky Fasco, a Girona-based political analyst and think tank Centre for Strategic and International Studies, the CSIS, told CNA that it is the right decision for Mr. Ganjar to accept the court's ruling. How his career will evolve depends on the instruction of Megawati and the PDI's position in the next government. One thing's for sure, Megawati's daughter and House Speaker have been given the mandate by Megawati to explore possibilities and communicate with political parties, he said. The Indonesian Party of Struggle, the PDIP, is both Mr. Ganjar and Mr. Megawati Mawaki's political party. And meanwhile, Mr. Nicky and Mr. Prabowo will try to ask his political opponents to work together as they need a grand coalition. The aim is to accelerate the implementation of programs he campaigned for, to have a political stability and national reconciliation, he said. He opines it's not beneficial to Mr. Angus to join Mr. Pablo's government should he want to contest the upcoming gubernatorial election in November or even the next presidential election in 2029. 2029, that's a long time. Mr. Nicky and Mr. Angus is popular in Jakarta and could potentially run again. Yeah, so this is kind of over now. So it's good. So it's good that it's then done. So hopefully that get things in order and start making changes for the benefit of the people of Indonesia. I'm glad that this has kind of been squashed as quickly as it has been, because obviously there was cause for concern that they may have to run again and these claims, and it was just like people did not want this. They did not want another run. They did not want another presidential run. They wanted this. They wanted to move on. They wanted something new and fresh, fresh eyes on the top at the top, and that's what they got. They're obviously happy with the party that they have, and the other two candidates really just didn't do enough to appeal to the people. I think that's just kind of it. While I don't know the ins and outs of Indonesian politics, guys, I really think it's fair to say that, really does speak a lot about about how they care about the two and about the party. And we'll keep an eye out on Indonesia as things develop, or try to keep an eye out whenever I possibly can. But the election's long said and done, and we move on. And we move on from one election to another one, guys, here in the Maldives. So this one is from The Guardian. It's a short one, but the pro-China party wins a landslide victory in the Maldives parliamentary elections. The voters back to President Mohamed Miscu tilt towards China and away from traditional ally India. So, yeah, they look like that those in the Maldives are obviously have more in favour. Now, I don't know much about the Maldives and about its election, so I can't really comment too much on this, but we have said that there are lots and lots of elections taking place this year. So it's clear here that that people within the Maldives obviously favour maybe a bit more favour from China are more pro-China than in India here from the looks of it. But let's read a bit into it, shall we? So Maldives voters have backed President Mohamed Miscu tilt towards China and away from traditional benefactors India, with his party winning control of parliament in an election landslide. So Minnu's People's National Congress, the PNC, won 66 of the first 86 seats declared, according to the Electoral Commission of Maldives, already more than enough for a supermajority in the 93-member parliament. The vote was seen as a crucial test for Missu's plans to press ahead with thousands of closer economic cooperation with China, including building thousands of apartments on a controversial reclaimed island. Yes, there was something about reclaimed islands, but I didn't actually directly cover it. I did hear about that. The Maldives is known as a top luxury holiday destination thanks to its pristine white beaches and secluded resources. But in recent years, it has also become a geopolitical hotspot in the Indian Ocean, where the global east-west shipping lanes pass the Abrikanalako. Mislu won last September's presidential poll as a proxy for pro-China ex-president Abdullah Yaman, freed last week after a court set aside his 11-year jail term for corruption. This month, as campaigning for the parliamentary elections was in full swing, Mislu awarded high-profile infrastructure contracts to Chinese state-owned companies. His administration was also in the process of sending home a garrison of 89 Indian troops who operate reconnaissance aircraft gifted to New Delhi to patrol the Maldives on vast maritime borders. The PNC and its allies had only 8 seats in the previous parliament, with the lack of majority stigmatizing Miscu after his presidential election victory in September. The main opposition party, the Maldivian Democratic Party, which had previously had super majorities of its own, was heading for a humiliation defeat with just dozens of seats. The pro-Indian MDP had sought to disrupt Misru's efforts to realign Maldivian diplomacy. Since Misru has come to power, lawmakers have blocked 3 of the nominees to the cabinet and refused some of his spending proposals. The Maldives, a low-lying nation of about 1,192 tiny coral islands scattered 800 kilometers around the equator, is one of the countries most vulnerable to sea level rises caused by global warming. Misru, a former construction minister, has promised that he will beat back the waves through the ambitious lands reclaimed and building islands higher, and policy which environmentalists could exacerbate flooding risk. Well, he's obviously got some plans here to try and... Now, obviously, like I said at the start, I don't know too much about Maldives and elections, but obviously, like it says in there, when you think of the Maldives, you think of those beautiful beaches, and you want the dream destination holidays for people to go to. But they're also nations of people there, over 1,000. So, and hopefully they will be able to make. Hopefully things will improve for their lives and continue to do so. But obviously they seems to be switching away from switched away from over time based on the article. They've switched away over time from being pro-Indian to more pro-China, and clearly China obviously making concessions and there are deals there which could benefit them. Whether you agree or disagree with it is another thing. But it is very good in terms of China to have control, to have some influence in these islands here. That's for sure. But we'll have to obviously keep an eye and see how things go. I'll try and keep an eye out on things regarding the Maldives, but it's going to be a difficult one to try and keep an eye on, that is for sure, guys. But an interesting one, to say the least, that they are more pro-China than pro-India, that is for sure. An interesting story, to say the least, guys. I hope you find these fascinating. There are some fascinating ones. A lot of short ones here today, guys. Which is why I wasn't originally going to talk about Ukraine, but I'm probably going to add that to this based on how long we've been going, guys. So this next one, guys, this one is there is some real history here, guys. This one is from CNN. Now, let's see how many. Now, I don't know a lot about this history. This is history that I really, really need to look up on myself. So a general goes on trial for genocide 40 years after Guantanama's bloody civil war, guys. Yes. So 40 years ago, Guantanama's bloody civil war happened. And 40 years later, a general goes on trial for it. Now, obviously, we're going to read into it. And there's quite a lot of information here, which is going to be good, because this will be greatly informative for myself, and I'm sure for you guys as well. But when you've been a part of something as horrible and deplorable as that, and you've been living a life, a decent or normal life for, things have been kind of normal for you for 40 years, it kind of does say a lot, doesn't it? So let's read into this, you guys. So John Brio Lopez was in his mid-20s when soldiers rushed into his home in the village of Plesca, nestled in Guantanama's western highlands. He escaped hiding in the wilderness, but he could not save his wife or 4 daughters. Now 70, Brito Lopez recounted the horrors of that day to a high-risk court A in Guantanamo City this week, saying the soldiers murdered his family during the early morning raid of the 20th of January 1982. Burning the bodies inside their wooden home. Their deaths took place in the middle of Guantanamo's 36-year-long civil war as a series of US-backed military governments cracked down on leftist rebels across the country. Guantanamo's counterinsurgency campaign led to the death of over 200,000 people, 83% of whom were indigenous minor, according to the United Nations-backed Truth Commission in 1999. Decades later, the bloodshed is being revived in the high-profile trial of the former head of Guantanamo's army, Manuel Bercigo Lugas Garcia, in a months-long process that is expected to see more than 150 witnesses, 30 survivors of sexual violence, and dozens of forensic experts giving testimony. According to Bruno Lopez and other witnesses who lived the western Cree region. Troops under the command of Lucas Garcia killed men, women, and children, driving the indigenous Malaya people who lived there away from their homes. The former labourer, who sometimes broke into tears during his testimony, spoke in front of large screens broadcasting Lucas Garcia's impassionate figure. Lucas Garcia participated in the processing via video link from a military hospital. The retired general has been incited for genocide, crimes against humanity, false disappearances, and sexual violence against the Mali people. According to the organisation representing the victims, the Association for Justice and Reconciliation, the AJR. The AJR accuses him of ordering more than 30 massacres and destroying 23 villages in the Mali X region, causing the death of at least 1,771 people when he led the army between 1981 and 1982, during the tenure of his brother President Fernando Romero Lucas Garcia. The former general has denied the charges, with one of his lawyers telling the court last week that Lucas Garcia will request an additional acquittal sentence with immediate freedom. CNN has attempted to contact his legal representative for comment. The trial is among several important war crimes proceedings since the 19th and has been attempting to address the atrocities during the Civil War, which ended in 1996. The proceedings have stuttered over the years, with some producing groundbreaking results, including for the first time a Guatemalan head of state that was put on trial. In 2018, a Guatemalan court ruled that the army committed acts of genocide, but no one was convicted. Human rights organisations and the Mali victims of wartime massacre had been increasingly frustrated by the slow road to justice, especially when the alleged perpetrators and their victims began dying of old age. Lucas Garcia, 91, was meant to face trials this year with former military intelligence chief Manuel Casillas. Both men were convicted in 2018 of aggressive sexual assault, crimes against humanity, and false disappearances, and given a 58-year prison sentence. Casillas was deemed unfit to stand in his current trial as he's suffering from dementia, said Jesus Silverto, acting president and legal representative for AJR, told CNN. Yeah, well, it just feels very late, now for these. It's good, and in the way that these trials are taking place, but it's also terrible as well because it's taken so long for some kind of justice, and that's really bad. Like I say, guys, it's not easy talking about some of these stories, but I also think it's also really good. It's good history for us as well, for us to better understand these things, which is why I do what I do. The bloodshed during the Civil War increased dramatically under President Romero Lucas Garcia's regime in 1978 to 1982. Now, according to a report by Human Rights Data Analysis Group, which saw what had been a selective campaign against guerrilla sympathizers turned into a mass slaughter. Under his rule is when the Scorched Earth campaign against indigenous communities of Guantanamo really picked up. Joe Maureen Butter, a senior fellow at the Washington Office of Latin America, who's an expert on human rights and transitional justice in Guantanamo, said the period saw soldiers and paramilitary forces execute Moran authorities. Tens of thousands of people were forcibly disappeared. Entire villages were burnt to the ground. A UN-backed Commission for Historical Clarification report found that between 1981 and 1983, a period where Lucas Garcia helmed the military, the Guantanamo state committed acts of genocide against 5 Malian groups, including the Shi people. The army said it was countering a leftist insurgency, but the report found the state deliberately manifested the military threat of the insurgency, and in the majority of cases, intentionally exaggerated the connection between the Malian communities and the guerrillas. Racism was a component behind the violence, the report says. It also concluded that the undeniable existence of racism expressed repeatedly by the state as a doctrine of supremacy explains that the brutality in which military operations were carried out against hundreds of Mayan communities. So, during the country's ongoing war, Guantanamo General Antonio Balaguer's Lucas Garcia points to a map at the military garrison there. Bird said that this expression of racism is extremely profound and its knock-on effects are evident in Guantanamo today. During a separate genocide trial in 2013, which led to the conviction of dictator Efrain Rios Bert, who was observing the proceedings in prison, saw supporters of the general spray perfume on seats that had been sat on by indigenous people. Wow. That tells you that bit there. That tells you a lot about. Institutional racism. Today, Guantanamo's indigenous communities account for more than 40% of the country's population, but their participation in public institutions and public life is certainly smaller in comparison to their size. Says Tito Abonla, a Latin American expert at the Armed Conflict Location and Events Data Project in the deep equalities that remain in Guantanamo. Infrastructure. And God, if I'm mispronouncing the country's name again, I apologise. Infrastructures and service areas that mostly inhabited by the indigenous population are very dire. The fact that there are 22 malign languages in the country and there are almost no signs in the capital of those languages are telling, he added. A million people became refugees due to the civil war, and today inequalities have made the Central American country one of the highest source countries for migrants encountered at the US border, many of whom come from rural areas largely populated by the indigenous Guantanamans. It took post-conflict Guantanamo years to build up capacity in its judicial system. Positive steps were made in the 2000s with vital reforms and leaderships by individuals like Claudia Paz Paz, who became Attorney General from 2010-2014 and worked to break the tradition of impunity by criminal elements in the country, Bert said. International actors like the UN-backed International Commission Against Impunity in Guantanamo, the CIGIC, assisted in hundreds of convictions, trained prosecutors, and has been attributed to helping reduce the country's homicide rate. But CIG was dissolved in 2019 during a period of democratic backsliding in the country, where successive Guantanaman governments and the country's elite have been accused of attempting to control the country's judiciary. Dozens of prosecutors and judges fled the country. Yeah, because they feared for their lives. Those who remain have reported privately about receiving death threats, said experts. The system is co-op silver tool from AJR said. So this case has been a delay for 13 years and we still do not understand the reasons, but this year they gave us the possibility. Yeah, so they were trying, there were forces in play trying to deny and stop this from happening, stop any kind of criminality against them. So this is survivors from the civil war gathered outside the Supreme Court prior to the hearing at the Xi genocide trial in Guantanamo City on the 25th of March there. The issue was not building a case, but was overcoming the fear of going after some of these people, some of the most violent oppressors in Guantanamo's military regime, who maintain connection with armed actors in their own network of violence people. Will Freeman, a fellow for Latin America Studies at the Council of Foreign Relations, said CNN had reached out to Guantanamo's prosecutor office and Department of Justice for comment. The country's current President Bernardo Arvano, an anti-corruption figure who defied the odds and won the election last year in a landslide victory, has promised to empower the judiciary. He has been constrained by the public ministry led by US-sanctioned Attorney General Consuelo Portas that has made 2 requests to withdraw his immunity. It's accused of attempting to disqualify the results of his election. Guantanamo's Attorney General office hasn't responded to CNN's multiple requests for response to this accusation. The victims' advocates hope the trial will bring a measure of accountability to those who perished during the war. But time is running out, says Michelle Ling, who has been monitoring the trial as an international accomplice for the network in solidarity with the people of Guantanamo, the NIS-GUA. The Scars TSC has been deploying tactics of delays basically to try and wait out the witness, she said. They know other witnesses are getting old and already more than 40 witnesses have passed away. CNN has repeatedly attempted to reach out to the public defender and his private attorney. When the trial was due to start at the end of March, Lucis Garcia's lawyers announced their resignation. He ended up using a public defender who needed 5 days to familiarise herself with the case, according to the law, pushing proceedings back to April the 5th. During Bruno Lopez's testimony this week, he admitted to not being able to remember some of the details, like the age of his wife and when she was killed, and the names of some of the 66 villagers he said were killed in his village. What remains clear is the trauma of that period, where he was too devastated to collect the remains of his family members. I couldn't stand the sadness, he said. I fainted, so I was collected the ashes. Another victim, Caroline Chell, told the court about the days she spent in the mountains in January of 1981. She was hiding from soldiers who had rounded up her neighbour and killed them in the house to use to store corn, she said. Now, more than 40 years after that date, she is no longer in hiding, dressed proudly in traditional dress. She made a testimony feet away from the screen, broadcasting a live feed of a villager-less tormentor, Lucas Garcia. He was the one who commanded the armies, and they killed my children, she said. It's not money that the victims want. What they need is accountability, Silva from AJR said. Whether or not the conviction is achieved, she said, what the AJR and its witness seek is a record of what happened, so it is never repeated. Yeah, pretty darn brutal, guys. That is for sure. I will try to keep an eye on this as much as I possibly can. That's really brutal. Not only have they've lost loved ones during that civil war, and the deep anti-Semitism and racism that was felt, but also how they've kicked their feet and dragged this out in every way, shape or form to deny these people any kind of justice as well. 40 years. I just don't know really what to say on that, except my heart goes out to them. It really is pretty. I really do feel for them, guys. It's not nice at all, and it's not nice at all. That is for sure, guys. So we're going to go. I wasn't going to originally cover Ukraine, but we'll cover Ukraine based on the fact that I've managed to go through these stories a lot quicker than I anticipated. That was not my intention, but we'll go to some stories in Russia. I'm just going to I'm just going to tweak my screens a little bit while I do that, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it, and share this across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. Anyone who does any of that is greatly appreciated. Yeah, I know that was not comfortable to talk about Ollie. Ollie and Pingu did not like that last story, that is for sure. Mind you, they don't like some of the stories that we cover, to be fair, on here, guys, because it could be pretty brutal. And it's quite hot as well. Yeah, I just noticed the wire turning red. Remember, if this turns red, it means I'm muted. So, and I always have like my eyes like watching it because of how close to me when I look at news. But yeah, thank you for watching that. If you watching that, if you did with me, guys, because I can understand if you switched over because it was a bit too much for you. But let's move on. Let's look at some of the latest news that's been happening in Ukraine, you guys. So, starting from the Kiev Independent here. So, this is ISW. Russia are attempting to create outsized panic in Kharkiv, forcing max exodus of civilians here. So, what's this all about? So, Russian forces and Kremlin propagandists are conducting a combined effort to destroy the city of Kharkiv and cause a max exodus of villages, the Institute of Study of War reported. Moscow has recently intensified attacks in the Kharkiv region, using missiles, guide bombs and drones to destroy infrastructure and kill civilians. These are being combined with information operations designed to sow outsized panic among the population while fueling rumours of an impending Russian ground offensive to take the city, the IWC has said. The Kremlin is conducting a concerned air and information operation to destroy Kharkiv city and convince Ukrainians to flee and internally displaced millions of Ukrainians ahead of a possible future Russian offensive operation against the city or elsewhere in Ukraine, it added. Kharkiv is at particular risk because of its proximity to Russia, lying less than 30 kilometers from the border. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on the 19th of April that the city plays an important role in President Vladimir Putin's idea of establishing a demilitarized sanctuary zone in Ukraine, ostensibly to protect Russia's border area from Ukraine strikes and incursions. However, the ISW has also assessed the likelihood of a successful Russian ground offensive against Kharkiv as very low, providing Ukraine's recent renewed US military aid swiftly. In its later attack on Kharkiv, Russian forces struck the city's television broadcasting tower in April 2022, causing half of the mast to collapse. There are interruptions in the digital TV signal at the moment. The governor said the state special communications service reported that the tower structure were partially damaged with work underway to restore broadcasting signals. The attack may have been intended to involve memories of a similar strike in the TV tower in Kiev in March 2022 to create panic among Ukrainians during another challenging moment in the war, the ISW had said. It had reports that Russia's military bloggers heavily amplified the attack, framing it as a sign that residents should leave the city while they still can. At the end of March, Russia destroyed all the electrical subsidies in Kharkiv, leaving Ukraine's second largest city without a stable power supply. The Russian military command may attempt to destroy Kharkiv city with air, missile and drone strikes and prompt a large-scale internal displacement of Ukrainian civilians if the Russian military determines that it cannot successfully seize the city with Operation Grounds, the ISW concluded. Continued timely US and Western military assistance, particularly in the provision of air defense systems and missiles, it will be crucial to Ukraine's defense in Kharkiv city, he added. Russian officials do not believe that Russia has the capacity to launch a new attack on Ukraine's second city of Kharkiv without major replenishment of Russian troops, Bloomberg had reported. In late March, President Volodymyr Zelensky said another major Russian offensive may come at the end of May or in June, and that Kharkiv is protected. Ukraine's military intelligence, HUR, said earlier in April that news of potential attacks on Kharkiv was part of Russia's psychological operation, adding there were no signs of Moscow preparing new attack formations to carry out on ground offensive. Well, we've covered extensively many attacks taking place there already, so we know that they've been hitting it because I've covered countless short stories. I'm sure you guys are on that area, so we know that they've been doing that, guys. So this one I've just seen here, some additional ones. So the governor Russian drone attack on Odesa injures 9, including four children. So no fatal casualties in this one, luckily. So Russian forces struck Odesa with drones overnight, damaging residential buildings and wounding 9 people, including 4 children, the Odesa Oblast governor had reported. Ukraine's air defense destroyed 15 out of the 16 Shala-type drones that Russia launched overnight, the Air Force reported in the morning. One of the drones fell on Odesa's residential residents, damaging houses, shops and other infrastructure, according to Ukraine's Southern Defense Forces. 9 Odesa residents suffered injuries, including 2 children, aged 12 and 9, and 2 infants, according to the latest update. The Russian drones were launched from Cape Contina in occupied Crimea and Kursk Oblast, which borders Ukraine. Russia also launches 2 Islander-M ballistic missiles from the Belrock region. The Air Force provided no information to the outcome of the Russian missile launch. The drones were intercepted by Milorad, Oskar, Kiev, and Kharkiv Oblast. Mobile fire groups of Ukrainian Air Force's anti-aircraft missiles repeatedly upheld the attack, the Air Force had reported. So multiple explosions were heard at Kiev around 3:35 a.m. local time on April the 23rd, amid an air raid alert in the capital. Sergei Polko, the head of the Kiev City Military Administration, said that all area targets were destroyed by the air defense. No casualties or damages were reported in the city. Drone attacks are a daily occurrence in Ukraine, affecting various regions across the country. And on April the 22nd, Ukraine's air defense destroyed 5 of the 7 Shadow-type drones, as well as 1 Orion 10 reconnaissance drone there. So continuous attacks, obviously, there as well. Another one here. Russian attack against 5 Ukrainian regions had killed 5 and 12 others in the past day as well. This one has literally just come down. Russian attacks against 5 Ukrainian regions over the past day killed 5 people and wounded another 12, Ukrainian authorities have reported earlier on April the 22nd. In Ukraine's East Donetsk Oblast, 1 civilian was killed in the village of Noskoviska, and another in Kalaviska. Vadkin Fashkin, the regional governor, had said on Facebook. One more person was injured in the town of Selidron, some 30 kilometers northwest of the Russian-occupied Donetsk, according to Fashkin. Russian troops reportedly launched a total of 15 attacks against Donetsk Oblast settlements, destroying or damaging almost 40 houses, 3 apartment buildings, administrative and industrial buildings, and 2 non-residential buildings. Russia hit the southern city of Kursk and 6 other settlements in the region overnight, and on April the 22nd, killing 2 people and wounding another 6, according to Kursk's Oblast governor Odesa Pruskin. The strikes against Kursk Oblast reportedly damaged 8 apartment buildings, 26 houses, an educational facility, a kindergarten, a cultural institution, a critical infrastructure facility, and a gas pipeline. A 33-year-old civilian man was killed in a Russian attack on the village of Yuskovin in Kharkiv Oblast. Governor Olashevsky had reported. The 2 women were reportedly wounded in 2 villages near Kotskisk as well. Russia troops targeted 15 settlements in Kharkiv Oblast in the past day, damaging homes, villages, infrastructure, and industrial facilities, they added. A man was injured in Mysko Oblast when debris from a downed chalet drone launched by Russian troops fell on the town of Odorkiski, damaging infrastructure, the governor Valery Kim said on Telegram. Minogorsk Oblast air defenses shot down a total of 4 Russian drones overnight, according to Kim. 2 civilians were injured and a house was damaged when Russian shells the village of Shavika, Puska, and Sumy Oblast. The Ukrainian military Northern Operational Comment said on Facebook. Another one here, guys. This is just the update of the number count. These are the most accurate numbers that they could possibly have when it comes to Russian losses here. The General Staff has reported that Russia have lost 461,000 troops in Ukraine since the war began. Russia has lost 461,060 troops in Ukraine since beginning the full-scale invasion in February 24th, 2022. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces have reported. This number includes 800 casualties Russian forces have suffered just over the past day. So according to the report, Russia has also lost 7,241 tanks, 13,916 armoured fighting vehicles, 15,845 vehicles and fuel tanks, 11,765 artillery systems, 1,046 multiple launch rocket systems, 769 air defense systems, 348 airplanes, 325 helicopters, 9,407 drones, 26 ships, a boat, and 1 submarine. So those are the current numbers they have at the moment there. Obviously, there was a mass attack yesterday or day before as well. I haven't seen the direct report on that. It might have been, it was the report down there yesterday, but I don't think, I'm just checking to see if there's anything related to it. There is not, guys. Just seeing if there's any other ones that's worth us covering here. Interesting one here. This is an interesting one. So the Swedish Navy chief said Russian shadow fleets of oil tankers possibly conducting espionage in the Baltic Sea. Interesting one here. I do like this news feed, guys. It's very interesting stuff here from the Kiev Independent. I like I say, it's not always 100% accurate, but it's interesting to say the least, that is for sure. We're going to have a look at the deep state map as well. I've got that set up for you guys. We'll look at that as well before we wrap things up as well. So Russia's shadow fleet of oil tankers is possibly conducting espionage in the Baltic Sea as well as helping circumvent sanctions on the trade of Russian oil, said the Swedish Navy chief Imre Skogshusken in the comments to the STV public broadcaster published on the April 22nd. The shadow fleet refers to aging and largely uninsured oil tankers that Russia uses to transport oil above the $60 per barrel price cap that the EU, the US, and the group of 7 G7 countries imposed in December 2022 as part of their efforts to cut Moscow's fossil fuel revenue. Huskin said some of the ships of the shadow fleet have been found to possess communications and signals equipment not usually associated with cargo vessels, leading to concerns that it could be used in hybrid operations. The equipment could possibly be used to intercept communications and perform other acts of espionage, he added. Beyond their use to bypass sanctions and possibly conduct espionage, there has been concern that the shadow fleet could be a potential threat to the environment. The Financial Times, FT, reported in November 2023 that Denmark could start inspecting and potentially blocking the transit of Russian oil tankers operating in its waters without Western insurance. As Western insurance carriers will not cover ships violating the price cap, the move would likely cause significant impact on the transit of oil through the Baltic Sea. It is unclear if Denmark has made any progress with implementing the plan. Huskin echoed the concerns about the possible impact of the Baltic Sea, saying the Shadow Fleet could become both a security and environmental tragedy. Yeah, it would be environmental tragedy, that is for sure. Interesting one there, to say the least, guys. That is an interesting one, to say the least. So there's some of the updates of some of the stories that have been taking place, obviously, with regards to the conflict. I'm just getting the deep state map up for you guys. I think this conflict, I will say, obviously, because I haven't really publicly really commented on it, because I could have got a direct story on it, but I want to say it's absolutely relief that it is an absolute relief that the aid package from Ukraine's been put through. I am going to give credit to Mike Johnson for pushing it through and not bowing to any ridiculous pressure from others about it. I know he's not a very good person, and Mike Johnson's not a very good person, but they needed that, and it will help stem the tide, help slow down the tide. That's for sure in this conflict, you guys. And it's definitely one that needs help. They need all the help they can possibly get. That is for sure, guys. So we're going to wrap things up with the deep state map here, guys. So this is the current deep state map. The latest update is yesterday. The latest update is today, the 23rd at 9 o'clock, actually. So this is the latest update. Literally, they've updated this literally as I've been recording, believe it or not. So which is kind of crazy. So that's pretty awesome from an updates perspective. But this is the current update right now here. If we pull it back a couple of days, because it has been a couple of days since we had a look. So we're going to go from the 20th here and see what's happening here. So it looks like here, has there been any changes up here up in the north? It does not look like there've been much changes here for the last couple of days. No, it doesn't appear to be too much changes here. I don't think there's been really any kind of movement here, because this is all land that they liberated last year. They haven't really been able to kind of make any gauge from there, from the looks of it here. So just keep an eye here on Barak here, obviously that area there. This is obviously from 20th, that day 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Yes, so there's been a tiny bit, so they are trying to gauge for so let's see if I can zoom in. So it looks like they've been trying to make some ground here. That was from last night. This morning it looks like they pushed, we can see there that was this morning, so maybe there's obviously skirmishment in fighting taking place literally there as we speak. But yeah, they are trying to push, obviously, down there. This is obviously area that's liberated that they've managed to hold on to. Doesn't appear to be any engagements along this side here, but here, this is a lot of ground that they have been occupied territory that they've really pushed out on. So if I'll just pull this back a little bit for you guys. So this is from, obviously, since they took the city of Avika. And if I pull this back a little bit further, you can see this is where they've been gaining the most ground here. So literally, this is the 13th here. This is from the 13th. Now, as I start, make sure you guys can see clearly there. So as I start pushing it forward, you can clearly see, as the days come past, they really, especially up here in Novavaskika, they've really pushed through defensive lines here, and you can see that as the days have passed, and this is the 23rd, so they are really pushing through here on this main road here, as we speak here. Yeah, this main road here on the villages of Oskutyn, Noskavika, they really are pushing out territory there. So Ukraine really are really losing some ground, and are losing a lot of ground in this area, that's for sure. So it's not good at all. They really are struggling to hold territory around here. That's for sure. And they've just been able to gain from strength to strength ever since they lost the city of Avika. Really, not good at all here. Let's scroll down. I did not mean to zoom in there. Has there been much push here? Let's just have a look. Doesn't look like too much has pushed and changed here. This looks like this has all been held here at the moment. Yeah, there's not been much along here. They have tried to do some skirmishes here from the looks of it, but again, nothing too much happening here. Yeah, nothing too much, it looks like, has changed. I'll scroll back out a little bit for you guys. Looks like they're trying to push down here towards Oskavin here. Let's zoom in a little bit here just to kind of see. So this was the area that they've liberated. Have they managed to make any gains here? Just checking the date. Yeah, no, don't look like they've made much changes here. So they are trying to push here as well, make some skirmishes there, but not really too much happening there. So, and obviously there's not going to be too much here along down here, guys, because of the river kind of protecting. I'll zoom out just for you guys. Yeah, because of the Dynamo River, which is obviously protecting Kurshkin along there. But I'm just going to pull it up to the date, to the latest one, which is this morning. But as you guys know, obviously the main, we can see there, if we just pull it back just a little bit more, just so to say final time, obviously this is the situation that they're in at the moment. Yeah, they are gaining ground, especially in that center area. So they need to bulk up the Donetsk region. The Donetsk region is the region where they're losing ground as we speak. Ever since the loss of Avika, they have just been pushing. We've seen it on the deep state map, not just from the reports, but from the deep state map. We can see that they've been gaining that ground over time. So sooner the A gets in, the air defense weapons and whatnot, I do believe it will start slowing down these offensive. I think the offensives will start slowing down. Obviously, they changed the conscription as well to remind us as well. The conscription was changed as well. They changed the conscription as well, so younger people will be needed to fight. I still personally think they should have reduced it further. I can understand the anger from some Ukrainians not wanting to send their children into this war. But my argument is also to say, well, if you love this country, if you love this country and you want this country to exist, you're going to have to step in, because it's not, British troops are not going to get involved. French troops are not going to get involved. There's not going to be foreign troops stepping in, at least not right now. There's no intention of doing it, because everyone is petrified of World War III. So it's gonna be interesting the next as we continue to keep an eye here on the conflict in Ukraine. I do apologise if you wanted some updates on the war in Gaza. There's not been too much up. I've covered a few stories on Rumble, so if you guys want to check out what's been happening on bit in Israel and Gaza, I have covered quite a few stories with regards over there, so you can check them out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Videos are dropping on them as well, so I've got some stories on Israel and Gaza. I'll try and see if I can get 1 or 2 stories for you guys on the Snowflakes Corner as well. I'll try and drop some shorts over the next several days for you guys as well. But just before we go, just going to see, Ollie, how are you feeling after that? Ollie is actually very happy. No, guys, you're misunderstanding Ollie's perception. So he's actually really happy because the Ukraine bill got through in the US Congress. It's a significant step. Obviously, it's going to take some time for some of it to get to him, but it's a massive. It's a very positive step, and gives some optimism towards the conflict in Ukraine, because everyone's been saying it's all dead and done. The war's already over, and I'm like, I've had mixed feelings, up and downs about it, but that bill going through will just buy Ukraine some much needed time. Obviously, things are going to be turned on its head if Trump comes into presidency, but we'll cross that path when it comes to. And Thanks everyone for watching. Bye.